The vacation was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, a chance to make memories that would last forever. It was originally just going to be myself, my husband Jack, and our 2 children, Mindy and Josh. At the last minute, Rob managed to convince Jack to bring him along. Rob had been a friend of the family since before my oldest child was born. He was a good guy. Smart, too. A former detective that never quite recovered after being shot and discharged from the force. Jack wanted to help him out, give him a nice memory after a few hard years. I wasn't thrilled about it. My husband promised me that it would be fine and Rob wasn't going to get in the way. But as the days went by, it became clear that something was horribly wrong. There was a tension in the air between Jack and Rob. That's how it started. I pulled Jack away from dinner one night and I asked him, "What's going on?" "Nothing you need to worry about," said Jack. I insisted. "Jack, don't lie to me. What's wrong? You and Rob have been acting weird all day." Jack frowned. "There was a murder yesterday, just a street up from here." I gasped. "What?" Jack nodded. "A man, out in a parking lot, stabbed to death 17 times. I shook my head. "That's horrible. But what does it have to do with you and Rob?" Jack looked unhappy. He didn't want to tell me what was going on, but I reminded him that I didn't appreciate being lied to, and he changed his tone. "Rob wanted to know where you were last night," said Jack. "I was at the hotel gym. It's 24 hours. I frowned. "Why?" And then, startled, "Was he trying to imply that I had something to do with this?" Jack shrugged, looking a little helpless. "I don't know. I think that he's trying to be a detective again. That he misses work." "He can miss it without accusing me of murdering someone," I said hotly. Jack waved his hands at me, trying to calm me down. I know, and that's exactly what I told him, sweetheart. He looked embarrassed about it afterwards. I just thought that, I don't know. I think he was teasing. I shouldn't have said anything." We didn't discuss it after that. We were changing location tomorrow anyway. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. The idyllic destinations we had chosen were plagued by a series of brutal murders, and our family seemed to always be in the wrong place at the wrong time. One day, we were actually questioned by the police. They pulled us all in separately. I'll admit it, I was nervous. But that was just what being in an interrogation room did to you. The police didn't have anything against me. The officer who came in to talk with me was a woman named Bernadette. She sat in front of me and gave me the usual spiel about my rights. I asked her, "Am I under arrest?" "No," she said. "We're just here to ask a few questions." They informed us that there was a murder on the same floor of our hotel. We were in Miami, Florida. I shook my head. I've never heard of those people before. Not once in my life. I don't understand why we're here. Just a few days ago, there was a similar murder in Georgia, near a hotel that you and your family were staying in, said Bernadette. I remember hearing about that on the news. You can't think that we had anything to do with it, can you? I demanded. That's ridiculous. Bernadette didn't look amused. She told me, recently, your family took a vacation to New York City? Yes, and before you talk about murders there, I've seen documentaries. That's not uncommon. People have probably been killed there today even. It's a tragedy, but that doesn't mean we're the ones responsible for it, I insisted. Bernadette said, You seem to have misunderstood the situation. We're more interested in the fact that you're traveling with someone." "Rob?" I asked. "He's a friend of ours." Bernadette asked. "And he was on vacation with you in New York as well?" No, that was just the family," I told her. "We didn't bring Rob with us. This is the first time that he's traveled with us anywhere." Bernadette frowned. "Is that right?" "Yes, that's right. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it." I was starting to get angry. "What is this about?" "Ma'am, we have footage of Rob in New York City at the same time that you and your family were there," said Bernadette. "What? I didn't know that. The man has always been a little odd. You know, he accused me of killing someone in Georgia? Out of nowhere. I think that he's trying to find a case to solve," I told Bernadette. She questioned me further, and I told her everything that I knew about Rob. How he had been a great detective when he was younger, but after he was shot, he had never been the same. Eventually, they had let him go. It was a dishonorable discharge from the force, so to speak. After that, he had gotten odd, reclusive for a while. His wife left him, though I didn't know the details of it. Rob claimed that they hadn't been divorced and that she had gone missing. I thought that he was paranoid. After all, I had seen her get in the car that day, and she had been fine. Angry, but fine. The more that I told Bernadette about Rob, the more uneasy she seemed to be. Eventually, she said that she didn't have any other questions for me, and she let me and my family go on our way. They didn't let Rob out, though. My daughter asked, "Did he do something wrong?" "No," said Jack. "I'm sure that they just want to talk to him, the same way that they wanted to talk to us. Right, Angela?" I nodded. "Your father's right. You know, Rob used to be a good detective. Maybe they want to ask for his help on the case." We went back to the hotel to wait for Rob, but he never showed up. Jack made a few phone calls the next day, and we realized that he had been arrested on several counts of murder. Not only had he been charged with the killing in this hotel, but also in the murder in Georgia, and one in the United Kingdom, where we had vacationed 3 years before, and several in our own hometown. It was all over the news for months. Rob swore up and down that he didn't do it. I believed him. But that was just because I knew what Rob was really doing in New York that day. The real reason Rob was in New York was because he actually had suspicions of me all along, because he saw me with 2 of the victims, and I had never mentioned it to anyone. I realized this right before the vacation started, that he was starting to catch on to me. I hadn't been lying to my daughter. At one point, Rob had been an amazing detective. And now, he was going to jail. I didn't want this to happen. Rob really was a good friend. We had known him for years. When he started looking into me, I had been hoping that killing his wife would have been enough to send him down a different rabbit hole. But it hadn't. The man had been determined that this was not going to be something that would slide past him. He knew that his wife was missing, but he didn't even connect it with the killings. I should have left her body to be found, instead of dropping it into the lake and pretending that she had stormed off mad. He wanted this to be the last case that he solved. He wanted to catch me in the act and redeem himself by bringing in a serial killer. That would have undone every bad thing that accumulated on his name during the last few years that he served on the force. It would have saved his reputation. He would have been heralded as a hero. as the detective that managed to catch the Parkway stabber. But Rob just wasn't smart enough to catch me. He wasn't smart enough to figure out how to catch me. He couldn't even keep himself out of jail. It was almost funny. All that time that he spent trying to catch me, and I had caught him instead. The fly had been snared in my web once more, and in a week, I would go out and find another fly and snare him too.
Subscribe today or beware.